Hello? 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 Is this working now? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? No? Yes? Maybe? Is this working at all now? I think I lost all my possible viewers now. Anybody that was watching is not watching. Okay. And Giacomo. Oh, wait, Giacomo, are you here?
Yes, I am.
And I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Giacomo, you're here. I've been having it. How long have you been waiting for me to find you?
No, now it's just 3-4 minutes, but
Okay.
I misread the timing. I thought it was my 4 p.m. here in Europe.
Oh, okay, that's fine. I mean, I was having issues because nobody was able to hear me before. You can hear me though.
Yes, I do.
All right. I don't think I have any. I think I lost all my initial viewers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share it all again because I think it's working now. So let me share. Share now. Let's do this. All right. Yep. Sound is back on, so we're good. All right, Giacomo. Well, I'm sure we're going to get some more viewers coming in soon. I'm going to share this again on Instagram. All right. Check again. All right. So the good thing about this is I'm going to be saving this, and I can edit out the beginning part. That's the good thing about all this program. So let's copy conversations with Giacomo. Is it Celi or Giacomo Celi? Celi.
Celi. That's the way.
Celi, like the heavens. Like the heavens, right?
Yes, correct. With the skies.
With the skies, yes, the skies. My last name, I'm assuming you're Italian.
Yes, I am.
If you couldn't tell, my last name is Italian as well.
Yes, very much.
When I was younger, when I first was younger, and I first realized what Mastrangelo means in Italian, I thought it was so cool. I was like, "What? Master of Angels? That is so cool!" And then none of my friends thought it was cool as I did. All right, so there we go. So we have sound back on. I think we have some viewers coming back in. So, all right. So, Giacomo, I'm so excited about doing this with you. I've been a huge fan of Novus. And let me, first, I need to apologize about audio connections, everything else like that. Secondly, I will have to apologize in advance because when we scheduled this a few weeks ago, I didn't realize this will be the same day I'm receiving my roaster, my coffee roaster. And so I have a lot of stuff happening today. So if I have to jump off, it's because I need to go talk to somebody and they're going to be helping me out with some stuff. But what I'll do is I'll set you up to kind of talk freely to go through some stuff. We have a lot of slides to share. Hold on, let me. We have a lot of slides that we can share with people that you sent to me. And so I'm really excited about that. So you recently, Novus recently rebranded, or didn't rebrand, they kind of changed their name to Mercon Specialty. And that's because they were always owned by and a part of Mercon, which is a larger global organization, which you work for Mercon directly. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct.
All right. I'm just trying to give everyone a context for that. So Mercon owns Novus, which now they changed to Mercon Specialty. And Novus started, was it 3 or 4 years ago?
Novus started 2 years ago, but the company has always been involved in specialty because obviously integrating farmers into markets, obviously qualities, high quality has been always part of let's say of the commercial activity of the company.
Yeah.
Also providing different outlets for different quality.
Yeah.
But let's say that since the specialty market has in specific needs, the importance of having a company dedicated to specialty coffee materialized 2 years ago. And the name at the beginning being thought for our specialty division was Novus, but we felt that keeping, let's say, more consistency also of where is this coffee coming from, who is actually sourcing this coffee. So it's an integrated supply chain, and therefore Novus became renamed Mercon Specialty.
Okay. Well, fantastic. I want to get back to that, but first, with Zelly Beans, we we have actually never been able to talk in person. The only thing we've done, exchanged some emails. I've worked with a lot with Michelle here locally, and I've loved what Novus stands for, now Mercon Specialty. And not too long ago, we were talking more about the Lift program, and I knew of it. I knew like some generalities of it, but I didn't know specifics. And then she started talking to me more about the different things about it, and I was just more and more amazed by it. And that's when she told me, it's like, maybe you need to speak with Giacomo because he's our like sustainability director. So I take it from that you're the one that kind of oversees a lot of these initiatives, which is amazing. I love that. But our mission as Zelly Beans is families helping families through specialty coffee. So whenever I do these conversations, I actually like to start by asking our guests about their family, because it only makes sense, because we all come from some sort of family. Some of them are larger, some are smaller, some we get adopted into families. Sometimes we're born into big families. It doesn't matter. Whatever family we have a family. Sometimes we choose our family. But so can you just start by telling us a little bit about your family and maybe a little bit how you got involved in coffee? Is that good?
A long story.
let's keep it in, try to do this in 5 minutes, maybe.
I was born in Florence, in Italy, and my family was actually living in Mogadishu in Somalia, in Africa, where my grandfather had moved there in post the Second World War to work for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to help the phytosanitary control of cotton and banana outside of Somalia. So after the Second World War, basically the country started after the colonial era to restructure a country, and so my grandfather moved there. He was an agronomist, and so I grew up there. Then we came back. I have a sister, so we both were living there. I did all my primary schools there, and then in the late 80s, the situation became quite difficult in Somalia because of Siad Barre and the civil unrest. so we moved back to Italy. So there, I probably that chip of agriculture and development remained with me. So I did study also. I did study tropical agriculture, and I specialized here in the Netherlands. In the Wageningen University, which is very prestigious university, very good for agriculture and life sciences. And then I was reading about a company, an Italian coffee company called, which everybody probably knows, it's called Illy. So it was an interview with Dr. Ernesto Illy, one of the, let's say, celebrities in the coffee sector. And he was talking exactly about the importance of quality and integrated supply chain. Let's say the integrated supply chain for quality. So everything that I was actually studying, it was actually practicing from an entrepreneurial point of view in his business. So I was quite lucky because they were looking for a person to join their team, and so I did. So that's how I entered into coffee, and from there I spent now about 15 years in this amazing world.
Fantastic. Awesome. That's really, like, it's so cool, like, because you got tied to you have ties to Africa and Mogadishu from like your family, and you spent time there growing up. But your first real introduction to coffee and the coffee chain was in Italy through Illy, and now you've been a part of it. Yep. And really quickly, yes, Melanie, we got our sound figured out. Thank you so much for coming back and trying to watch us. So, and just a reminder, if anybody wants to ask questions, you can ask questions in the comments. I think I might have somebody behind that I need to go talk to about stuff. But first, I think my forklift is getting delivered.
So I can take the stage if you need to pop out to see.
What I would love for you to do is first, so we have a lot of slides that you had shared, but why don't we go ahead and, like, one of the ones I thought was most interesting.
Yes.
So is this second one here, this lift sustainability well-being. So what I'd love for you to do is maybe share a little bit about this, because this is, and you can talk a lot about this because you're director of sustainability for Mercon. You probably were integral in like creating this wheel, this sustainability well-being wheel, and each of these little pieces are different pieces that you guys are trying to address. And so, and this is what I care a lot about with Zelly Beans, is like the fact that there's so many family farmers and families out there that are producing coffee, that are producing good coffee, or maybe not quite that good coffee yet, but they could be producing amazing coffee and thus be making more money for their families. And that's what this kind of talks about. Am I wrong, or is that correct?
Yes, it's correct. Farmers.
So what I'm going to, here, let me let you go ahead and kind of talk a little bit about this. Maybe first, like, you can talk about what the LIFT program is, and then kind of like and touch on these different parts. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Is that a good?
Yeah. So as I was saying before, the importance of supporting supply chain, so integrated supply chain, meaning supply chains where there are identities and there is proximity and transparency, are extremely important. And these shorter supply chain, this more integrated supply chain, offers the opportunity to work hand in hand with the coffee farmers and the coffee families, um, uh, um, and offering them a number of services. So this is exactly what Lift is about. Lift is a platform of services for coffee farmers. And the services are services that are relevant and material to the farmers, and can help them producing more, better, while at the same time respecting the environment, and their workers and the community around the farms. So you start with obviously good agricultural practices. Good agricultural practices, meaning everything that has to do with technical practices. This is including activities such as soil management, fertilization, pruning, the control of shade, and good agricultural practices are really important because they are functional to a number of other activities that the farmers needs to do. One is, for example, renovation. So on a regular basis, farmers needs to renew their coffee plants, and so they need to enter into a renovation cycles, and use better varieties, use varieties that are more tolerant and more resistant. So we help them. We have nurseries that guarantee purity of the varieties, and can be distributed to farmers that have an agricultural package. So farmers that knows how to renovate. So not only on, let's say, an annual basis, but also these extraordinary investment and activity that has to be done in the farm. Good agricultural practices are also very much connected to farm business management. Because the moment you are doing something, and everybody with the business will know very well, you need to control your cost of production. You need to understand where inefficiencies are, try to correct the inefficiencies, and have a diligent record and a diligent management of your the economical side of your business. And these only when you have a good agricultural practices, that also and you have also a renovation program in place in your farm. You monitor your cost of production. You registered and analyze your cost of production. Only then you're also able to enter into credit and risk management. Obviously, farmers, in order to farm, they do need loans. They have short-term loans and long-term loans. Short-term loans are loans used for, let's say, what we call the harvesting. So everything that has to do with labor and inputs that you use on an annual basis. And long-term loans are the ones that are used for longer-term investments, such as, for example, a renovation, but it could be also an infrastructural upgrade in the farm. It could be a wastewater treatment, a new mill, or a new tractor, a new pickup. So these are, let's say, so then we also work on voluntary certifications. So obviously, what we want is the farmers be able to have also multiple opportunities to market their coffees at better prices. So even if they can get a little incentive with certifications, we also set them up to get certified, mostly Rainforest Alliance or Cafe Practices. We also work on two areas on the fair social practices, meaning, for example, zero tolerance to child labor, respect of minimum wages, and policies against discrimination and forced labor. So these are commitments that the farmers need to make in order to remain into the program. So we don't tolerate child labor in the lift farms. And this is a commitment and something, an engagement that is very important from the lift farmers. We also work on the environmental side very intensively with the farmers. So we work on protection of water sources. We work on protection of forest areas in the farms, and we also work on waste management. And finally, and most importantly, we work on climate change. And this is both on the adaptation, so ability for the farmer to cope with a changing climate. And in parallel, we are also developing a project for carbon footprinting. So that as a consequence of adoption of best practices, farmers can also realize opportunities for carbon credits. Also on quality, that obviously it's mostly at the time of the selection of the varieties, and then at the harvesting and post-harvesting stages. This is really important. And last but not least, we work on the community. And this is another long-term investment that we're doing through our foundation, Seeds for Progress. And by the way, we'll have on the 19th of November, we'll have a gala, virtual gala. So everybody that is here in this call, please reach out to me, to Joseph, or to Joseph to attend a virtual gala. So we what we do in the community is working on quality of education. We provide better infrastructure, connectivity, and a digital seeds program, which is a primary school program developed by the Penn University for rural schools in Guatemala and Nicaragua. And as part of the foundation, we have an entire program, a curricula that goes from nursery, where we have
I think I lost you for a moment, Giacomo.
Yeah, we lost you. Yeah, we lost you for a little bit.
Well, I don't know if you lost me, or if I lost you, or you lost me. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. I'm sorry if I interrupted you. Now I wanted to. So you kind of went through the whole circle. Thank you so much for kind of thinking of like my FYI interruption. My forklift has been delivered, so I have a forklift to take my new roaster off. So obviously, I want to, like, first and foremost, this is amazing. Why do I think this is amazing? Because this is so comprehensive. This isn't like a one prong approach. It's not even like a three-prong approach. This is very comprehensive. It's thinking about the whole community. It's thinking about the whole, like, every aspect of what's going to make farmers successful. I guess, so Novus, so Mercon created the second company, Novus, which is now Mercon Specialty, 2 years ago, right? 2 years or 3 years?
2 years ago. Yeah.
2 years ago. So
Yeah.
during that,
Absolutely.
yeah, and they did that because they recognized there was a specific need to be able to work with, I guess, not just smaller farmers, but also smaller roasters. I talked to Michelle about that. That's one of the things she mentioned to me. So, but how long, again, you've been working with Mercon for a while. How long ago did you guys create this, either the LIFT program or the sustainability, I'm going to call it the sustainability wheel? I mean, that's what it looks like to me. I don't know what you guys call it internally. I'm just going to call it the sustainability wheel. So how long ago did you guys start working on this? Because this doesn't just come up in like a year or 2 years. This is a long, long process. So can you tell us a little bit about that part?
Absolutely. Indeed, creating such a comprehensive service provision to and delivery to farmers, it has taken a long time. Mercon started its operations in Nicaragua in the 60s. And since the start in the 60s, so we're talking about 40 years ago, 60 years ago, the company started immediately realizing about the importance of adding value to farmers. And therefore, this proximity has seen the services being delivered to farmers by the time. As it is in its current form, LIFT has now 5 years, meaning when I say in its current form, meaning also with the KPIs, with the program, the curricula, the specificities around the training the agronomist, on the methodology to deliver training, all the extension service that we provide. So this is, as it is, has been running for 5 years. But as I say, the work to get to think and provide such a comprehensive program, it's 60 years old. So is by the time the company has created these interconnected services.
Fantastic. So it took you, so 5 years ago is when they started this, the wheel, like the different services that they were providing, Mercon, for the farmers. 2 or 3 years ago is when they started Mercon Special, Novus became Mercon Specialty. But they started in the, Mercon started in the 60s working with farmers in Nicaragua, and it was very much at the beginning of the founding of Mercon that they recognized the need of farmers. We're well beyond just buying their coffee.
Correct.
So this is, if in reality, this is like, it's 5 years old, but this, like, Mercon has been working on this for, what is that, 60 years plus, 70?
Yes, correct. Correct. We're now working with farmers for over 60 years, and as I say, this is something that really stands out in certain businesses, is when you realize that you have to work with your stakeholders. You have to work hand in hand with your stakeholders if you want to guarantee a long-term viability of your own business, because there is no people systems where you can see a long term when one element of the system prevail over the other elements of the system. If there is no balance and harmony in the system sooner or later will collapse. And this is true for every system, an economic system, also an environmental system. And when you're talking about sustainability, the whole point is that you have all the systems working together. You have the community, you have the environment, and you have the business. And everything needs to be balanced and in harmony. Otherwise,
Yeah, no, and I think that's and for those that are maybe jumping in a little bit later, I'm Joseph with Zelly Beans Coffee. I'm speaking with Giacomo with Mercon and Mercon Specialty, speaking about like sustainability efforts and working with farmers and growers for coffee industry specifically on how to do because the need of them. I loved how this is not just something that Mercon just started realizing in the last decade or something. This has been since the foundation of Mercon. So I knew that from my own talks with Michelle that Mercon's actually a family-owned business, right? Like two brothers from Nicaragua actually. Is it 2 or 3 brothers?
There are 2 brothers in the business. Yes.
Mm-hmm. The 2 brothers in the business started it, and so they obviously recognize the families that are working at the farms, and they are all part of that. So what I would like to kind of do is kind of look at. So you kind of talked about the entirety of what's needed for farmers and for the success. That was the wheel. That was the. Let me just pop that back up. That's this wheel. This the entirety of the well-being for farmers, and within the wheel are these different things, and I love how it includes credit and risk management, renovation, environmental practice, community development, quality and post. All these are parts of the success of growers, and I love how that's the circle, and on the outside of the circle, these are the ways in which Lyft is addressing these different things specifically. And I love that you're having training modules. What I'd love to do is I know that you sent me a bunch of other slides, and I think there's one that I want us to kind of look at specifically. Wait, is it this one? So this is the 3 pillars. This kind of was the foundation of it, of Lyft. Is that right? It's the the productivity, social development, and environment. So.
Exactly. So you have the services that you've seen, a wheel of interconnected services. Services are functional to improving performance on adoption of practices, of best practices, which ultimately get monitored to really measure the impact of the intervention. So the way we measure the intervention is through an index, and the index is divided into all the practices are divided into one of the 3 pillars. And there it is, the index.
Which is this right here, right? Or which one should we? All right, no. So we have a couple. So I'm going to first let's look at just the index, which is right here, and let's show this. So this is once it goes through the 3 pillars, which is productivity, environment, and social development. So because you guys have been thinking about this really quickly for such a long time. You recognize the wheel, and then it's but you have to have ways in which to measure it and to try to judge it, and because that's what and this is what I'm doing with Zelly Beans and trying to start Zelly Beans and create it. I have a good friend of mine, Matt, who's working with me on different indexes. All right, so the quality of the coffee, the value of the coffee, the customers, who's buying, all this. And then on top of that, for myself, we have the mission part of it is families helping families. So big part of that is is for us to start to continue to recognize and see the productivity in how we are being successful in our mission, which I'm only 2.5 years old. So I don't have a whole lot to base this off of. Mercon, being over 60 years working with coffee farmers, has this great ability to actually kind of be able to look at these things. So I'm sorry I interrupted. I just kind of wanted to make sure that we're on the same page, and especially since like you and I can talk, we can talk a lot of these details, but and we'll probably have coffee roasters, maybe coffee growers viewing this video, but there's gonna be I have a lot of people that are just interested in like people that have no idea about coffee production or any of this, but they're interested in knowing like, okay, so Joseph, you're doing this business, you're saying families helping families. How do you actually know this? And I always say, like, I'm going on a little aside, Giacomo, so bear with me. And I'm just going to hide this for a second because when I first started this business, I had this dream idea, like, and I talked to Michelle about this. I've talked about this on different videos, so you can go back and look at different videos where I had this grand idea of direct relationships with growers. And I had this great idea of like buying direct from farmers and all this kind of stuff. And it's this kind of like this fairy tale idea. And I say fairy tale because now being in this business a little bit longer and being critical and recognizing like what is truly effective and what is truly useful, not just for me and marketing purposes, but what is truly useful for the growers. I recognized very early on that as a single coffee roaster buying directly from farmers, that's not necessarily the right answer for most, I would say at least many, if not most growers of coffee in the world. And there goes to be so much, and that goes back to that wheel that we were looking at, because there's so many elements to it. And the only thing, like, if anything, what as a coffee roaster, what am I able to help them do? None of it.
So, yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, the specialty segment is already in privileged position because it gives, well, first of all, on the consumer side, you tend to have a more attentive consumer, a more a more careful consumer,
more careful, yeah,
a consumer that certainly value the product, enjoys the product, and has a connection with the product.
We're talking about the specialty coffee market.
Correct.
Like specifically. Because when we're talking about like commodity coffee, we're talking, especially here in America, when we think of commodity coffee, that is very much like the Folgers or Maxwell House. But I would even go further to say like commodity coffee includes those quote unquote specially looking coffees in grocery stores. I can't imagine, Giacomo, maybe you can speak to this a little bit. I can't imagine like somebody like an $5 to $8 a pound coffee, like that a consumer is paying $5 to $8 for a pound of coffee in the grocery store. Is that really giving enough money? Like, is there enough market? Is there enough value or enough money in that to be able to be like really helping the growers? I don't know specifically a whole lot of these, like, but from my experience in coffee and my interactions with growers and importers and individuals such as yourself, there's like, I can't imagine there being enough margins with an $8 a pound coffee in a grocery store being able to give sustainable pricing to small family farmers. Now I'm going to say small family farmers because when you go economy of scale, like if they're growing containers and containers of coffee on the same farm, they may have an economy of scale that can work for that. However, what most coffee consumers don't know, I'm saying most, even specialty coffee consumers don't know, is what is it, like 90% of coffee is produced from small coffee farms?
Well, it really depends on the origin that you take as an example. In Central America, yes, you could easily tell that in volume it's probably sometimes a little bit less because larger farms. But in number, it certainly is that that is the order of magnitude. You are in the 90+% of farmers in Central America are smallholders, and the remaining is just a limited number of larger plantations. Obviously, if you move to a country such as Brazil, which has a completely different farming profile, you'll probably get into probably 50 to 60% are to be considered large farms, and the remaining are small farms. But even the size of a small farm, so for example, just for you to have an order of magnitude, what we call a small farm in Central America is below 12 hectares, while in Brazil, what you call a small farm is below 30 hectares. So in
here in America, we don't think about hectares, we think about acres. What would 12 hectares equivalent to acres? You know, or do we need to Google that?
I need to Google that. I'm sorry. I think in international unit of measure, so it's difficult. So you're talking about 12 hectares. You're talking about 29 acres.
Okay, so 29 acres. And for example, I grew up in like a small town here in just outside of Houston, Texas, on a small horse ranch that was 20 acres. And like, so I can imagine that, like, there's probably a lot of city people that can't imagine like what 20 or 30 acres looks like. So, but let me give you an example. Like, let me think about it. Like, 20 acres would probably be about 2 or 3 football fields, American football fields. So that would probably be about 20 acres, I would say. I'm guesstimating here. Because you can definitely, from one side of the farm, 20 acres to the other side of 20 acres, I'm just talking about a square, you can see the other end of it. When you're thinking about 40, 50, 60, 100 acres, that's when you're starting to get into size, lots of land that it's bigger than what you can probably see just in general, in a, like, if that makes any sense. We may have some viewers that come on here and they may make comments after the fact, and that's fine. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But that's like, I grew up on 20 acres, so I kind of have an idea of it. But so 30 acres or 12 hectares is not that big. And then even if you're saying 30 hectares, which would be about 60 acres, is that right?
Yeah.
Just under 60 acres. That's still not that big when it comes to farming.
No, because you also have to consider that not the entire property will be cultivated. You're usually thinking about 50% of the size is actually cultivated, because you have streets in the farm, you have housing in the farm, you have water sources, you have forest areas, you have area of slopes where you cannot cultivate. So when you say 12 hectares, that doesn't mean 12 coffee hectares or 29 acres. You're talking about half of it. So, but the
and
size,
if they're doing any type of shade grown, that means, and not only shade, like they're doing that, but they're also, for smaller farms, they're usually not able to sustain themselves just on the coffee production. So they also are probably growing their own food, like their own or other crops they're growing. So they also have to split up for the other crops. So I just like, no, you're right. So even like if it's 12, if they own 12 hectares, 30 acres, they're not using all of that for coffee farming. They probably have their house on there. They may have like a house that may also have to have like, are they drying? Are they doing any sort of drying on their own land?
Part of their patio will be there. Part of their wet mill will be occupied. Part of the farm will be occupied wet mill. So it is a tiny producer, and this producer usually will live in this farm with his entire family, and that would mostly include on general 3 to 4 kids. Maybe one of them already has some additional family members, maybe is married. So there's a number of people living on that property, and therefore what I'm saying is that the opportunity for the specialty sector is really because of the high quality, and obviously it's physiological. The farmer will not be able to produce entirely specialty coffee, so the specialty will be the 10-20% top of its production, but that will contribute a lot to the living income, to the prosperity of that family. That family will earn during the harvesting season, so they will start earning money in December, November, December, when they're starting selling their coffee, up to February, sometimes March, depending on the origin and depending on the year. Then they will have a whole period where they're actually spending what they've earned, and so to the point that there is there is a way of saying, which is when approaching September, October, those are the so-called months of the skinny cow, because you've basically la vaca flaca. You have consumed all that you had, and you're waiting still the next season to come. So there are tough months for the farmer. So being a coffee farmer, being a small coffee farmer, is not easy. Is not easy. You need to invest a lot, and that's why a program such as Lift it's really helping, because what you're doing is educating and professionalizing people. And in our program, just for you to kind of have an understanding, about 75% of our farmers they have no schooling or up to primary school. So their ability to do math and understand certain more difficult technical concepts is also quite challenging.
So you said 75% of Lyft farmers don't have above, like you said, grammar school, or like
primary school.
Primary school do not have less than primary.
75% have up to the primary school. So only 25% have a secondary school degree, a high school degree. So it's and you have to work very much hand in hand, because you need to professionalize them. You need to give them as many tools, and in the right way, for them not only to have technical background, but a financial background as well, because they need to manage cost of production, they need to manage credit repayments, they need to manage the flow of their farm. So it's really difficult, and that's why what we see as extremely high impact is the work done by Seeds for Progress, because there is where you can say, okay, now today we're working, the owners of the farm, they do have this limited education. Unfortunately, they haven't been able to go to school. Now we have the opportunity to change lives, and so investing in the new generations is crucial for the survival of coffee origins. And if you look at the market share that two countries today have earned, Brazil and Vietnam, it's impressive, and it's really scaring. what we are losing today is the origin diversity. So, and the origin diversity is made by the Guatemalan, the Nicaraguan, the Ethiopian, the Rwandan, where the Colombians, the Peruvian, where you have different flavors, and this is what has made consumer excited about coffee, and that's the reason why coffee has been able to grow, has been able to overtake many other drinks, particularly the energy drinks, because in a dark future, which we hope won't happen, because we hope so much more lift and so much more seeds for progress is happening. But in the dark future, you could think of only two origins existing: Brazil and Vietnam. Every coffee will taste exactly the same. There will not be any added value to anybody. And probably younger consumers will move to consume more energy drinks for their caffeine intake, because coffee is just boring, which is not what is today. Coffee is exciting from a flavor perspective. Is an amazing drink, and to think that this is just come from nature, it's incredible. But we need to protect this.
Yeah. So Giacomo, I want to pause just for a second, because I could talk about this for hours, and it's already. I know we started late and everything, so we haven't quite gone a whole hour yet. But my video has been recording for an hour. So what I would like to do is, it's so hard because I want to talk about so much. And Giacomo, I will definitely want to talk with, even if we don't do another live video or something, I would love just to talk with you one-on-one, or maybe even have like a small video conference with some other coffee roasters that have similar values as myself, because this means so much to me. This is because I got started in coffee. I started Jelly Beans 2.5 years ago, but I've loved coffee since I was a kid. And I remember the first time I tried a single origin coffee, and it just blew my mind. I was 16 or 17 when I first tried a single origin coffee, and I just thought it was amazing. And as I continued to learn more and more about specialty coffee, but then as I started roasting my own coffee as a home roaster, which led me down this whole rabbit hole of learning more about all individual coffees. But then I started learning about and that bothers me, because I want coffee is only as good as those that are producing it. And the small family farmers that put so much work and effort into it, if they're not doing it, then it's going to make it very difficult. Anyway, so what I would like to kind of do to kind of wrap this conversation up is, I guess I guess the question that I constantly ask myself, and I have asked me, can we really make a difference in families' lives around the world, specifically in coffee, by the coffee we drink, by the choices we make in the coffees we drink? And if so, how do we make those choices?
Yeah, so choose your suppliers carefully. Choose for companies that are sharing your same values. Choose for companies that that are as close as possible to the farmers, and that are able to give you that level of visibility and traceability to farm level. Continue to get excited about coffee. Don't give up to quality. This is the future. Try to plan. I know it's difficult, but for example, something that can really help producer, apart from every coffee that is supplied by Novus, is already supporting the LIFT program. So you can rest assured that all those services are being implemented, and these interventions are happening in the coffees. But also something that is really helpful for farmers is predictability. So if they know that there is a business somewhere in the world that is committed to a long-term relationship, that's really helpful for them, because they can obviously plan in advance their investments in order to satisfy a need.
I love that. So how about because that does a lot for me and helps me. It also it affirms what I'm doing and what I'm trying to do with Jelly Beans and my continued striving for growth for this. And that's one of the things I try to do. And that's one of the reasons why I love Untitled Mercon is that visibility, that boots on the ground. I say that boots on the ground because I physically can't have boots on the ground in Nicaragua, Guatemala, in Honduras, in Ethiopia. I can't. It's just me right now. And maybe someday I can grow big enough with Jelly Beans Coffee that I can. But until then, I have to work and partner with organizations and companies such as yourself that are doing these things that have the same values. So for a consumer, though, for somebody that drinks coffee every day, maybe they're used to buying their coffee at the grocery store, what can they do to ensure that the coffee that they're drinking is making an impact on families' lives around the world?
It's a long journey, the journey of coffee. So and there's many claims to consumers. Consumers are bombarded by claims, so it's really difficult. And and as I say, this is where the specialty has a privilege, because you have a consumer that is willing to spend a little bit more time to understand that product. First and foremost, the product. You have a physical connection. You're putting this product in your mouth, in your body, so you have a very intimate relationship with food. And I'm saying that also as an Italian. So the fact that and so you have a consumer that is listening to this product, is understanding. It's maybe is not a trained capper, but he will be able to tell you this is tastes something, and it's concentrating, and it's sweet, and I like it, etc. So you have a privileged consumer that is able to look beyond the few seconds that on average a consumer would spend in front of a shelf in a supermarket. Usually about 10 to 12 seconds a consumer has picked the product, and it's difficult to you see, as a consumer, to look beyond that with just a few seconds dedicated. So try to tell the story. Try to tell the story. Lyft gives full visibility and transparency of what's happening. The beauty, and how they say, the beauty, the ugly, and so everything. So there are things that are doing, and there are things that are not, and you're working on it. So I think so far consumers have been bombarded of positive messages where there's no problem, no worries, and they have been because of that. Now nobody wants to go back and say, well, guys, for 15 years we told you that if you buy certified coffee, everything is solved. Well, it's not really true. Nobody is doing that, but you can tell this story because you have a consumer that is willing to listen to you, willing to listen to what you have and what's behind that product. So tell the story. Michelle and the team are there, and I obviously, me and the team in Origins are here to support you with the impact, measurable impact, and also stories of success. Educate your consumer. That's what you can do when you're. Because if you don't do it, don't expect the big players to do it.
Well said. Yeah, I appreciate I mean, if anything, you're calling me to action, which I appreciate. And that's good because I mean, this is exactly, like this is what you said is like specialty market, the specialty coffee market and specialty coffee consumers have like a higher likelihood of influencing the market and influencing and helping make these change. And that's kind of been my theory and that I've been working on with Deli Beans. And part of my thing is with Deli Beans, yeah, families helping families through specialty coffee, but the way in which I see accomplishing that is trying to transition the everyday coffee drinker to specialty coffee drinkers. And so I appreciate that. Like that's almost like an affirmation. That is an affirmation for me to kind of continue what I'm doing and continue to educate, continue to share the stories of the farmers. My hope is to not just with Deli Beans Coffee is not just about trying to like reach the specialty coffee drinker. I mean, I'm producing a specialty coffee. I think my coffee is amazing. I know it is because I'm getting it from great people such as yourself, and I'm doing the best I can to roast it. But if we don't start growing the specialty coffee market, like the demand for it, it's not going to make as big of an impact. So that's my hope and my goal. And I'm going to continue to share the story. Giacomo, I'm sorry we did not get through even a quarter of the great stuff. I wish I could show everybody, like there's the pillars that you wanted to show me, the research and innovation that's happening. Really quickly, what I'd love to do is just show this one slide, which goes to show the impact that Lyft is truly having, and this is just a microcosm. So what I'd love to do is just show this one bit, like this one slide, which I think tells a story. This is just a microcosm of productivity in Nicaragua in 2019, 2020. So do you want to kind of explain what this is really quickly before we sign off?
Yeah, so you have a national average according to International Coffee Organization standards for Nicaragua. So this is public data in Nicaragua, 13 bags per hectare. This is the average national production. We have our producers that are not Lyft in Nicaragua because we source also from farmers that unfortunately not yet we have been able to reach with the full services, but just with a subset of services. Perhaps they had a renovation plan, or perhaps they had some credit, perhaps they had some spot technical assistance. So we could see already that the moment you are starting injecting these services into the farmer's business, you can already really increase, but you can really achieve a full potential, doubling up productivity for our Lyft producers, and this is a game changer for the viability of those farmers.
Yeah, what we were talking about, what we said earlier was the small coffee farmers are anything under 13 hectares, right, which is about 30 acres. So this one process right here, it's not a matter of growing their farm, like getting more hectares. It's a matter about like the efficiency of how much they're able to produce of the specialty coffee, and be able to, because the more they produce, the more efficient they are, in which this goes back to all of those other, like the part of that wheel that you said, like the education that you need to get. And so I just like, that's just like one microcosm example of the success that Lyft is able to show. And I'm so proud to, like, I have one Lyft coffee right now. It's the Honduran El Durazno. It's a honey process. I'm almost out of it, actually. I'm going to talk to Michelle and see if I can get some more of it, but I know it was a very limited run, but I hope to get some more. What I love about the Lyft program, what I've learned as well just recently is you guys aren't creating like a, what you would, like, what some people would say is kind of like this, what is it, like a narrow, like, it's, what am I trying to say is like, your Mercon isn't like those that join, what farmers that join the Lyft program, they're not then contracted or forced to sell to Mercon.
No.
Which I think is great, because like you are giving all these things, like opportunities and education things to these growers, and you're not saying like, okay, we're doing this, so therefore you have to sell us your coffee at this rate for the next 5 years. No, they can turn around and sell it to anyone.
Yep.
And
right.
That's what I like. The word that I like to use is magnanimous. Like that's such a generosity of heart, and it shows the character of what Mercon is doing that I want to continue to partner with, and I plan on partnering with you guys in the future with many more coffees. And I'm so excited to be able to do this, because that's the ideal, is doing it because it's the right thing to do, not because you're expecting to get something in return.
Yeah, exactly. We want to be the partner of choice for farmers and for roasters. We don't want to obviously impose anything. So if the farmers is happy with what he's receiving, and if the farmer finds us as their the best outlet for their farm, we are there to serve.
Giacomo, thank you so much again. If any of my viewers want to reach out to you or trying to find you, what's a way that they can get a hold of you? I mean, are you on social media at all, or do
I am only on LinkedIn. I'm really old-fashioned person with social media. My only social media is LinkedIn. I use it obviously for professional reasons. Otherwise, well, anybody that can reach out to you, then you can share my email address.
Okay.
I'm happy to connect.
So if anybody is interested in reaching out to Giacomo directly, please reach out to me. You can find me on social media, Instagram, on Facebook, either through Zelly Beans Coffee, or through, you can find me directly, Joseph Mastrangelo. You can always email me, joseph@zellybeanscoffee.com. I would be happy to work with anybody on doing that. Giacomo, is there any parting words you want to give to our viewers and listeners today?
Don't give up on quality. Enjoy coffee and put all your senses there when you're having a cup, and that's the best way to reward the hard work done before getting to that cup, the many steps taken.
Excellent. Well, we're going to say bye to our audience. Giacomo, if you don't mind just staying on for a moment, I would love just to follow up with you just on a couple things. And then, thank you all for watching. This is Joseph with Zelly Beans Coffee, and with Giacomo Haley from the heavens, from the skies, actually from Mercon, speaking to us all the way from the Netherlands. Thank you so much for your time, Giacomo. Thank you for all the hard work you've been doing in the many years, trying to create a better coffee value chain and helping the growers. And until next time, we will talk to you later.